In this video, I'm going to show you how to take this lowered ceiling and make a tray ceiling higher up to give it a little bit of depth. So this ceiling here is 2 inches shy of 8 foot, so 7'10", but I'm going to make a tray ceiling that comes out around my fan, around my island. I'm working on the island right now. I'm not finished, but I realized once I had the island here, the ceiling looks just way too low. And just to note, this is a lowered ceiling. So if you have a lowered ceiling, this video is for you. If your ceiling is already at the highest point that it can go, you'll need to actually reframe your whole roofing system. So that's not going to be for you. But if you have a lowered ceiling, you have those 12-inch tiles or sheetrock that's been lowered, that's what I have. So this video would be for you. The first thing you need to do is figure out, do you want a big tray ceiling, like the whole room, like 2 feet away from the wall, 3 feet away, 4 foot away? Do you want a square tray ceiling? You want a diamond? You know, sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want. So what we decided on is we're gonna do an island down here, which I'm working on. This is just cardboard, so I'm getting to see how big of an island I could actually fit in here. Okay, once you figure out where you want your tray ceiling, so like right here, you can see the line that I ran, okay, with a tape measure going off this crown. I did 48 inches out, okay, that line's 48, and then I did 42. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start the smallest opening that I can do first, just in case I wanna make it bigger, I can. If you do too big, you can't go back smaller. You're gonna have to add sheetrock. So what I did was I went to 4 foot, and over here I believe it's a little bit wider here. I can't remember exactly what. And over here I did another 4 foot line off of this crown. And over here it's I think it's like 50 inches, something like that. So what I was doing is I was looking over here and saying, okay, I'm gonna have an island here. It's gonna be quite big. So why don't I do a tray ceiling that just goes right with the length of the island? And that's pretty much what I drew out up on top of the ceiling, was just an opening just a little bit bigger than the island, and I made it symmetrical to this wall here. See how this wall has like pillars here and the TV and well, this is where I said, okay, I'm gonna set my island in front of that. And if you're wondering how far it is from here, I think it's about 52 inches, 52 to 54 from here, which is a little bit wider than normal. A lot of people say you need a minimum of 48 for 2 people to cook in the kitchen. So 52, 54 is perfectly fine. From the end of the stove here to there, it's about 52. So that's what I'm gonna do. And the reason why I'm doing 52 there and not doing it a little closer is because I want it to be symmetrical to this focal point here that I have. So after I got that all marked up where I want to cut my first cut, you want to take some plastic, painter's plastic, and since it's your kitchen, you want to go and tape it all the way around your perimeter of your markings. That way when you start cutting, you come in here and you could tape it to the floor. You can come in here and make a big mess and it won't get all over your kitchen. The reason why you want to cut it short, another reason, is because depending where your studs are, it's easier just to find a stud and then brace your stud to the ceiling, because that's what I'm gonna have to do, because the studs, I believe they run this way. And so what you gotta do, if you're cutting those studs, you gotta brace those so this part of the wall doesn't come falling down. And I'll show you that at a later point, but let me go and put the plastic up. All right, now I got the tape in the ceiling all around. All right, I also put some tape down at the bottom to keep all the dust from coming out. First thing I'm gonna do is I took the fan blades off, make a hole somewhere, and look up and see what I'm dealing with up here. I'm not even sure what's up in this space here. Okay, so this is what we got. We cut a big hole, the oscillating tool, and we're about 9 foot 7 inches up, 2 inches shy from 8 foot here. So, but it's actually 22 inches higher, so that's way too high for a tray. So I'm gonna have to lower the tray. Probably thinking maybe only, you don't want it past a foot because then it looks like too deep. But yeah, that's what we're at. We're just finishing cutting, going a little bit wider, just bigger than the kitchen island will be. All right, took a few beams out up here. It's a little bit more cleared out up there. I'm doing it's about 62 inches wide and 100 inches long. So it's just a little bit over 8 foot. And when you have it open, now's the time to patch anything that you want to patch on the walls, ceilings, walls, just to keep drafts from, because it gets cold up there. And also run some recessed lights if you don't have any. I didn't have any recessed lights in my kitchen. Only has one sliding door. I have no windows in my kitchen, so it's super dark. So I had to run 3 4-inch gimbal style luminary lights on that side and 3 on this side. So now's the time, whatever you need to get done. I actually pulled out 2 wires of dead cabling that was up there that was going in the wall, and then I pulled on it and nothing was connected. It was dead. So you want to check that. And yeah, because people do weird stuff when it's a lowered ceiling, throwing wires all over the place. Sometimes they're not hooked up, sometimes they're hot and they just have them cut. So you just want to make sure everything's okay in there. I didn't have a switch for these recessed lights. The only switch I have in this kitchen was for the fan, which was in the center. The fan was there, and it had a 2-way switch. One was here and one was over there. So if you came in from outside or from around here, there's no way for you to turn on the light. And that's why I actually put a sensor switch here. So when you go through here, this light goes on. And this whole thing needs to be gutted. I had to rip all that sheetrock out and do all that as well. But back to this. What I did is I ran a switch here. So now this switch controls the recessed lights. So I ran the wire, now that I have it open, I ran the wire up and around, and then I tied into the power source, which came from, it actually comes from the basement up, and the power source runs all the way to this switch over here. And that power goes into this switch, and that controls the fan. And then it goes over to the next switch. It powers that switch as well. Yeah, so when this one goes off, and that one can turn it back on. And then what I did for the recessed lights, I ran another cable going into here, and it's not this one, but I have it connected right now. This one's actually for the fan. And then I actually have a red wire in there that came with the power line. It's 14.3 with a ground. They didn't use the other, the red cable, so I just left that disconnected. And they also did some weird stuff, like instead of putting the neutrals together, they had like mixed the wires with the red, with the white neutral. So I fixed that. I put all the neutrals together, all white. I like to keep them together, and then I ran the red to the switch instead of the white to the switch. Little things like that just bothered me. And one more thing, over here, the switch actually, the wires were tucked into the wall, and they were spliced and capped over here. So what I did is I pulled them out and I actually put it into the junction box, and I clamped it down. Another thing that I'm going to be doing is putting a speaker up here. I mean, that would be cool up there somewhere. I already ran a speaker cable. You can see it's kind of up there. I ran it through this wall, and I ran it right here. Later on, I can just cut out here and put another junction box, and then put a receiver around here so I can run the TV or the music. And another thing I did that I didn't mention is I didn't have an outlet up for the TV, so I went and added one up there. All right, now what I did up here is I ran a junction box here. I didn't put the cover on yet, but what I did that for was the power in from that switch over there. I brought the power into this box, and that's just for the recessed lights. So I tagged this one 2 recessed lights, and I ran that one going to each light all the way around where I have the lights. And another thing I did was I added a power switch off of that right here, and that is going to be for some RGB lights that I'm going to be putting inside of this tray. So I did that, and here's the speaker wire that I ran from that wall over there. Look at this wall. It's an exterior wall. There's brick in it, and they just left it open. Somebody went and bashed it in and ran their wires, and they just left it like that. They try to stuff some insulation there, some there, but you're always going to have a drafty space here. And what I've noticed from my experience is when you let the cold air into your attic, this is kind of like an attic space now because this is a lowered ceiling. When you keep this cold, the house stays a little bit colder. If you can warm this up a little bit by closing off holes like this, your house will be warmer. So what I got to do is go run some lath. You put a piece of sheetrock, but I'm going to just run some lath over it and just put some Structolite over that whole thing. And wherever the cables are, I'll just kind of go around them. Yeah, so that's my outlet that I added, and that's an outlet made just for, you know, low voltage. So I just ran it up with 14 2 cable going. This is all 14 2 cable for the lighting system. And so when I'm raising my tray, I'll just go ahead and nail this to one of the studs. So you might be thinking, well, how's he gonna get to the outlet to plug it in, right? Well, that's why I'm using the speaker. That gives me access to this. If you put the speaker right here, it's a big speaker. When you take it apart, you can reach your hand up in there and actually plug in your RGB light. So I'm so tempted to just start tearing that sheetrock down and just raising the whole ceiling everywhere, because this ceiling is so low. It's 2 inches lower than 8 foot, so it's not even 8 foot ceiling. So it's pretty low, but I think just leaving it low and just doing this tray, it's gonna make a big difference from the way it looked. Because when I came in here, you seen in the beginning of the video, it just looks like smashed compared to the rest of the house. It just doesn't match. And I understand why people lower the ceilings so they can save on heat cost in the winter, but for me, it seems to take away the beauty of the room when you lower it too low. All right, so I'm working on my tray ceiling, and I decided to wire up as much things as I could possibly think of. In-wall speakers, ceiling speakers. And I got my night owl. I ran another one right here. So there it is. You can kind of see it, the wiring. So I protected it with a metal strip, put some hose around the wiring, so when I plaster over this, it doesn't get all stuck. I am plastering over this because this is an exterior wall. I put some metal lath over here because there was a hole. They sell it at Home Depot. If you got some broken wood lath, you can just take this, cut it out, some snips, and put it over your lath hole. Use a staple gun or some screws to hold these down. I use crown staples. So no more cold air is going to come into the kitchen from on top of this attic lowered space between these two walls. All right, so I got most of my holes filled. Over there is a piece of sheetrock, and I foamed around it. There's a hole over there that I just foamed. This one I Structolite, plaster based it. There was a hole in the ceiling over there. I put some Structolite and filled that in with some, I had some metal lath that I used up there. Now, last place is right here. You can see right there is a hole. I got a metal lath all this and put some Structolite base, and same with the ceiling. They put some fiber board up there. I got to pull that down and put some Structolite plaster, and that way keep any squirrels and mice out of this area. So I'm going to do that one next, and then I'll be able to continue the work on the tray ceiling, because it seems like I've been doing all these other things. I told my wife too. I told her it's going to be a can of worms if I put this tray in, because I just had a feeling it's going to lead to one thing, to another thing, to another thing. And actually, it wasn't even the tray ceiling that started all this. It was the kitchen island. It all started with that, putting a new island in, and then it went from the island to the tray ceiling, to the electrical, to this, to that. It's crazy. All right, I just finished up plastering that wall over there and the ceiling. You seen what that looked like before? Big old hole. Also, it's all air sealed in here. You can see it's air sealed all the way around now. Okay, there's only one place I didn't do, and that's over there in the corner where that air duct was. Can't really see it from here, but that's an opening there. So if I ever have to get in here, I can still get in here. I'll just put some foam board, rigid foam over there in that corner, just in case I ever have to crawl under here and fix a wire or something. All right, so I ran a new outlet right there. Alexa, turn off the kitchen lights.
Okay.
You can see it's a nice little RGB light there. So I thought that makes it look a little nicer. I don't know, just kind of illuminates that crown mold and looks really, really cool on camera too. I always see people putting the RGB lights on top of the crown, but if you put it underneath a crown on crown, it really highlights the crown, like the details of the crown. That just makes it look a lot nicer than just doing a plain wall. All right, on the other side, I put a nice outlet there and I hooked it up to, and I'm just gonna run from that outlet a wire coming to this outlet. But yeah, so back to this tray now. I'll be doing a cob, LED cob lighting strip that goes around, and I got some aluminum pieces that are gonna look really cool. They're gonna go into the actual sheetrock and blend in with the wall, so you won't even know they're there. And this is the LED strip I picked. It's by MyWise on Amazon. It's an RGB Smart IC Cob LED strip light. And the reason why I picked this one is because it's got a lot of leads, so you don't see a little dark spots or shadow spots. And also it has a RF remote and not an infrared remote. That way you can hide the sensor behind the wall and it will still work wherever you're at. And I also got this strips that go on the wall, and these ones you actually mud in. So it goes flush with your, you cut out the sheetrock, and that goes in the middle of your sheetrock where you cut it out, and then you just mud it in so it becomes part of the wall. These came in 6 foot lengths, I think 6'6", and they come with diffusers. These are the diffusers right there. All right, there we are with the tray ceiling. I made it a little bit wider, probably like 10 inches wider than what it was. All right, so now what I did, I didn't get it on camera, but I made 2x4s for each bay starting here. Okay, so this 2x4 I added here and here and here, all the way across. And that's gonna strengthen this side. And I did that on over there and on this side. So this thing is completely strong now. I can cut these beams. I already cut 2 off this side and 2 off that side, and I got 1 left to cut. And this should be strong enough to stay up on its own. And I put a 2x4 that was here. I just moved it over here all the way across because I made it a little wider. And same thing over there. Moved it a little bit, like 2 inches wider on that side because I made it, instead of 60 inches at 6'3", I did 72. Make it a little bit bigger. And that's where I'm at. So now I'm gonna cut this last beam here. All right, I ended up putting this 2x4 going across the center here and putting 2 2x4s just to brace that center, just in case when I cut this beam, it doesn't, you know, sag a little bit. I think that should be enough. And the rest I could just put a 2x4 on the back, just hold the ends. Should be good. And that's about the high, that's 12 inches high. You can see I can go up to 20 inches to the top of this plate here, but I'm just going to do 12 inches because anything more than that, to me, it's just a little bit too deep. So, but I got to go and build this all the way around. You see I haven't done it yet, and cut this middle piece out. But I got to do what I did here on the other side first, and then I'll cut this 2x4 out in the center, and then I'll work from there. And I knew there was a stud here, so I just counted 16 inches over and put some nails here, and then another 16 inches over, nailed again into the stud. All right, there's the tray ceiling. I got it all framed up. It's ready for the wood, like over here. So, and the reason why I'm doing so much wood is because I'm trying to figure out where I want my crown. I'm using a 7 1/4 inch crown, something similar to this. And if you put wood, it just helps to attach it better. But you can see I ran 2x4s, 2 in the corner over there, a couple braces there, 2 in the corner there, and the same on both sides. And that just gives it a lot more strength. This should never sag. I'll show you with this crown here. So you can, so that's just like as low as possible. That's only like 5 inches up. And then you could do, that's probably like 10 inches. That's like a foot, and that's like 14 inches up. All right, I got my wood up. I've decided on 12 inches. So I went 11.5 from the top to this piece 1x4 here. Sheetrock is at 12. When I put the ceiling on, it'll probably take a 1/2 inch off, so it'll probably be up around 11.5. Okay, now I put a piece of 2x4 here, just a little piece, nailed it here and here. That's just to give this support when I put this up, so I'm perfectly right there for my sheetrock. Okay, so I gotta cut this board, and then that'll be the first one. Put another one here, another one there, and one at the end, maybe one in the middle. But that'll be for the ceiling. I got my outlet already. It ran up top for my lights, or LED lights. And I'm gonna put some speakers in there. That's my speaker water right there. All right, got my 2x4s up there for the ceiling. And I'm putting some 1x3s over here. And that's just to hold the crown. Goes out about 5 inches, so I marked 5 inches out on both sides, and I put that 1x3 there. And that'll just give me something to grab when I go to mount this crown. And the other strip there, the other 1x3, that's for the LED trim. Okay, you need that to kind of have some support when you cut the sheetrock. Something to nail into the trim. Show you that in a minute. So this trim here, see, if I just cut the sheetrock and it's got nothing, wood behind it, it's gonna be a little bit hard to nail that to the sheetrock. Sheetrock is not very strong. And yeah, you could try to use staples or something, but most likely it's not gonna hold too well. So if you put a piece of wood there, right there, so when I cut through this, should be good. I'm gonna do it about probably 1 inch or 2 away from, probably 2 inches away from the crown. So if the crown ends up being 5 inches right there, I'm gonna probably go 7 inches out, somewhere around there, on the second piece of wood. Now on the side piece here, I can probably get away with just using the 2x4s, but I'm gonna have to mark where those 2x4s are at, because I'll forget where they're at. So I can put screws into each one of the rafters. All right, I'm about to cut my first piece of sheetrock. It's gonna be 6 foot long. You can see I put several layers of wood there just in case I wanna move that LED bar in or out. I can. I think it's 3 inches all the way to 10. And plus the crown, needs something to bite onto. Over here, same thing, I put 2 pieces of wood there just in case I gotta move it in or out, depending where I want that LED strip. All right, I'm gonna have to do, it's gonna have to be 2 pieces of 4 foot and then a strip in the center right here. All right, I got my first piece up. That's 6 foot long or wide. And I gotta screw it up. I left this beam here loose. I didn't even nail this one down yet. This one here, because I wanted to make sure it was on that, in the middle of it. So I gotta nail or screw that stud right there. I did that on purpose though, because I knew it's always a little bit of a weird fit. All right, got the second piece up. One more sliver for the top, and then I can work on the sides. All right, there's the ceiling done. All right, there's the tray. Oh, sheetrocked up. Now is the mud. Well, actually, I'm gonna install some speakers before I do the mud work, and the lights, and the crown probably. Well, the crown might be after I mud the corners in, and then I'll put the crown. That's how it looks. Looks pretty good. So that's pretty much how you make the tray. All right, now I'm installing some speakers, and they're clip speakers that comes with a nice template. You just put it up there and trace around it, and then you can do your cut. All right, these speakers come well packed. These are clip speakers. Template, it covers the cover. And if you guys want one of these speakers, I'll put it in the description. Another cool thing is they give you a little plastic cover, so when I'm doing my sheetrock up there, I could just cover it with these and it won't get all dusty. Okay. And it's really easy to install. You just use a screwdriver after you do the cutout up there. Really easy to wire up. And see, these are pretty cool because you just screw them. There's 4 screws, and as you screw them, they tighten to the sheetrock. So you turn, see that? And then it goes down. I'm gonna go install this one really quick. Install it like that. And boom, you're done. Really easy. And then just tighten them up. All right, once you got those tightened down, you can see how nice that is on the rim. It's like there's no air that can get in there. Nice and tight there. All the way around the sheetrock. Pretty good stuff, huh? And that's how easy it is to install a pair of speakers in your kitchen. Right above your island. So when you're cooking, if you're like me, you like to cook when you're listening to music. Because I don't usually like cooking, but if I got music that I can listen to, that just makes it a lot funner to actually cook in your kitchen. All right, so this thing comes with plastic covers. So I'm gotta do a lot of sheetrock, and this will get full of dust. So I'm gonna go ahead and put mine in there. It is a tight fit, so just push it in, and there you go. And that will protect your speaker when you're doing your mud work. That's pretty cool. You pull them out, just grab these tabs, comes right out. Sounds pretty good. Alright, now I put some adhesive everywhere in the cracks. Everywhere I'm going to pre-fill just so it sticks a little better. And all the corners, everything. I'm using some quick-creep bonding adhesive down there. Brush that on. A lot of people skip that step. And then I'm pre-filling all my holes. Make sure those cracks get filled up before you put the corner beads on. Alright, so I had a seam that was running all the way down this kitchen to the very end, and it cracked. So it looks like this, looks like a hairline crack. Now you might just think, oh, it's just the mud that cracked. But I started pulling this thing down very carefully to see if it was cracked all the way through. So you could just pull on it. And it's the center that cracked, not the sides of the tape, but the center. Okay, and if you look at that, it's an actual crack through the paper. Let's see right here? See the crack on there? I could pull this all the way back. Alright, you can see the crack is not only cracked there, but it's even cracked behind it into the actual joint. So that's why I don't really like paper. I usually use mesh. I'm sure mesh can fail too, but I've seen a lot of failure with paper. And you can see it's cracked all the way through there. Even if it's a hairline crack, I mean, it's still prominent. And it could be the fact that they make this paper tape weak, where they put a seam in the middle. That actually could make it weak, because that's a perfect line going right through that middle piece where that seam is. When you buy this tape, they make it where you could just bend it. It's pre-folded. Or where they do that pre-fold bend, that makes it weak right there. And that's proof right there. Now it's not gonna happen like that everywhere, but you will occasionally get one of those that'll run through your wall. I got one upstairs in the bedroom too, where everything's fine except for this one crack. And which sucks is when you have a textured ceiling, then it's a pain in the butt to match that texture. All right, put some mesh tape in there. You can see actually exactly where the tape was. I went over and you can see the texture is a little different from the popcorn up there. It's got lines, and that's because every line is when it hits that texture, it just creates a line. So I'm gonna have to skim coat this whole ceiling. And over here, this is all pre-filled. So now it's ready for the, I got vinyl quarter beads. Vinyl, why? Because it's a kitchen. I don't know. I got vinyl. A lot of people don't like vinyl. I never used it before myself, but I'm gonna make it work. And I'm gonna do a little different. I'm gonna put some glue over it once I get them up there. I'll show you how I do it in a little bit. So I'm gonna staple it too with the staple gun. And I'm not talking just a hand stapler, I'm talking crown staples. And I actually know where every piece of wood is, where they ran wood, every 12 inches here, so I can actually get it, the crowns into the wood so it won't be just into sheetrock. And that's one of the complaints about that is people say, well, how's the staple gonna hold up, you know, the plastic through just sheetrock? Sheetrock's not strong on its own. All right, so I'm using a crown stapler. This thing I got it on lowest pressure I can do, and it still wants to shoot through the plastic. So if you're doing this and using a crown stapler, good luck. I mean, it's possible, but you can see it shoots through a lot of them. Some of them will catch, but a lot of them won't. All right, some of them will catch and some won't. So you gotta kind of shoot a lot in there, but it does work. Sometimes you'll get a blowout like that and it'll just break the plastic. All right, I'm using a heavy duty stapler to see if this works too, and it works pretty good as well. If I got any spots that I missed, it does get in there, but again, it's like a 1/2 inch staple. It's only gonna go in so far. I think the crown staples are a little bit deeper. I got like 1 inch staples on those. But yeah, it does shoot through sometimes. So I guess you can do the crown staple and then come back with the staple if you got any that were blowouts, and just kind of. And I noticed the stapler also leaves it a little bit more proud, so you're gonna have to put a little bit thicker mud too, or hit it with the hammer when you're done. All right, we put some mesh tape and glue on this corner beads, vinyl corner beads or plastic, and we're putting bonding adhesive over the mesh tape so this will never crack. I've seen people do this tray ceilings and they don't put the mesh tape over it and it cracks. So take that extra steps and put yourself some mesh tape, which is fiberglass strands. Oh, I missed one. Yeah. I'll get that one right now. And then put some bonding adhesive right before you put your hot mud. Some hot mud in a bag, not that pre-mixed stuff. Do not use pre-mixed stuff with mesh tape. All right, there's the first coat. And it's pretty nice for the first coat. I still gotta do the ceiling though. I didn't do that. But all the corners have been hit once. I'm probably gonna have to do one more coat of easy sand or hot mud. And then after that, I'll just finish it with some pre-mixed in a bucket. Alexa, stop the music. How you doing up there? Okay. Looking good? Mm-hmm. It's your first tape install. Let's see, let's inspect. Oh, it looks clumpy. It looks really lumpy.
I just poked it.
It needs to be smoothed out. You smooth it. It's got like a hole in there. Ooh. You need some help. But you know what? It's okay. The second coat will fill in whatever you missed. Look, you just left a groove.
Where?